So let's go ahead and say, let's set up some examples. Let's say for when f of -5, and let's say we're also going to find it for f of 3, and let's say we're going to find it for f of 6. So that way we actually have 3 different scenarios in which we're going to try to evaluate this piecewise function. So the main thing to remember is that when we're saying f of -5, we're just simply going to look at these 3 different inequalities we have and see which one of the formulas we'll use. So for instance, when I say f of -5, I'm just going to circle it real quick. In that situation, we have x is less than -2 because -5 is further down the number line to the left. It's a smaller value than -2. So for f of -5, we're going to use x squared minus 3. So I'm going to rewrite my equation right here. Now instead of saying f of x, I am simply going to replace the x with -5, which is what we're being told to do right here. They don't want f of x, they want f of -5. So I'm going to evaluate it for when x is -5. What that means is that even though we have x squared minus 3, it means that anywhere there's an x, we're going to replace it with this -5. So this right here, I'm going to put parentheses underneath it. This is actually equal to -5 squared minus 3. So notice the only thing that changed is instead of an x, I have -5 in parentheses. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and evaluate it. And I'm just going to, I could use my calculator, right, to go ahead and do some of the math if I was uncertain. Now we have -5 squared, so I can go into my calculator, put parentheses, -5, and I'm going to square it, and I'm going to hit enter. And notice it gives me 25. So this becomes 25 minus 3. And if I then subtract 3 from 25, right, so if I do 25 minus 3, it gives me 22. Now I could have went ahead and put this whole thing in all at the same time in the calculator. I could have been put in parentheses -5 squared minus 3, but I'm just doing this to show you the steps if you were to do it by hand and you wanted to do each step. So what I have here is f of -5 is actually equal to 22. So that problem's done. So now we're going to do the next one. So if we go over to the next one, notice that we're trying to find f of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write a line right here, just kind of separating it, and I'm going to write f of 3. So I want to know under what conditions, or which one of these answers do I use for f of 3. Now, f of 3 is actually, if you look at it, right, it's not less than -2, first of all, right? That would be -3 and so on. So we're not going to use the first condition. The next one says when x is greater than or equal to -2, but it's less than 5. Well, 3 is in between 5 and -2. So that tells me that this is what I'm going to use. And on this one, it's really straightforward and simple. Notice there's not even any variables. They're just telling us that anytime x is anywhere in between -2 and less than 5, anytime it's in between that range, the answer will always be 5. So f of 3 is simply going to be 5. And we don't even have to work anything out. All we had to do is substitute that value in. Now I'm going to do the last one. So I'm going to block this off. We have f of 6. So f of 6. Okay, well it doesn't meet the criteria for the first one because it's not going to be less than -2. It's going to be greater than -2 because 6 is a positive number. It's bigger than -2. 6, this second inequality doesn't fit because 6 is actually greater than 5. And it says you only use 5 when x is less than 5 or greater than or equal to -2. So the third condition, it works. Notice it says anytime x is greater than or equal to 5, we're going to use this function right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. So I'm going to put this is going to be equal to 25 minus 2x. Keep in mind, because we're doing f of 6, and it does meet this criteria, anytime that we have an x, we are going to simply substitute it with our element that's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that 6, and I'm going to replace the x with it. So this is going to be equal to 25 minus 2. But instead of an x, I'm going to put a set of parentheses here, and I'm going to put the 6 in there. Now in this one, we can go ahead and work it out by hand, but we could just put this in the calculator at this point, right? We could say 25 minus 2 parentheses 6, and it'll give us the answer, and I'll just show you that right quick. So 25 minus 2 parentheses 6, close parenthesis, and it says it's 13. But if your teacher tells you, hey, I want you to work these out by hand, well, at this point, what I would do is I would go ahead and show that I brought down the 25, I distributed my negative 2 times 6, which would have given you negative 12. And then when you do the subtraction, 25 minus 12, it leaves you with 13. So f of 6 is equal to positive 13. And that's how you evaluate a piecewise function.